Welcome back to the Lewis Basketball Network. It is your boy Lewis, and I am back with another one, with another banger, with yet another video. Let's make this very clear, ladies and gentlemen. People need to stop giving James Harden passes and stop giving him excuses. I'm going to say this once and I'm going to say it again. James Harden is not a superstar. He is an all-star at best. Why? Because as a superstar, you have to be there in the biggest of moments when your team needs you the most. And all I keep hearing from the Harden fanboys, and all I keep hearing from the Chris Paul fanboys is, Chris Paul showed up 27, 11, and 6. James Harden had 35 points. He balled out all series. You notice that these are the same excuses that you would give a LeBron James when he's held accountable for something, when he doesn't get held accountable for things. They're doing the same thing for James Harden and Chris Paul. First of all, I'm going to say it again. Chris Paul denied on-court time with Steph Curry. Chris Paul has been trying to injure some of the Warrior players. He did it last year with Kevin Durant. But what about the Warriors? Aren't they a dirty team? Yo, they be trying to get away with things. And Draymond in? Am I talking about the Warriors or am I talking about Chris Paul? See how y'all love to change the conversation every single time? I've already gone on record as saying that the Warriors and the Rockets are two of the most whiniest teams in the NBA. But let's be real, the Warriors don't whine at the level that the Rockets do, especially from their two superstars and their head coach, quote-unquote superstars. Here's the bottom line. So you deny on-court practice time. You kept trying to play for the referees the entire series. You played terrible through the first 5 games up until Game 6. And all people want to talk about is in an elimination game, you had 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's nice. But let's put James Harden's 35 and let's put CP3's 27 into context. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Curry had no points in the first half. And I'm pretty sure James Harden had double digits by the half. And I'm pretty sure Chris Paul already had scored. If not, he was close to double digits in the first half. Steph Curry went scoreless, ladies and gentlemen. Scoreless. Only attempted 5 shots. He went 9 for 15 in the rest of the game, including 8 of 8 from the free throw line in the second half. And when you total the totals, ladies and gentlemen, Steph Curry finished with more points than Chris Paul. That's with Chris Paul taking away his 1-hour court practice session than on the eve before Game 6. And Steph Curry was in the gym when Chris Paul kicked him out just to make sure he got his shots up so that he could try to disrupt Curry's rhythm. Look how petty and how low Chris Paul went. And Steph Curry still finished with more points than you did at the end of the game. And what's so crazy was he was 2 points shy of having the same amount of points as James Harden. Let that marinate, ladies and gentlemen. Let that sink in. But yet we want to make excuses. We want to make excuses about how James Harden had 35 points. My thing is, it's not that James Harden didn't have 35 points. What did James Harden do in the fourth quarter? Did you fail to mention that he had 6 turnovers and he had 4 of the 6 turnovers in the fourth quarter? But the media's not going to talk about that. The Harden fanboys aren't going to talk about that. Or how about the fact that James Harden missed 5 free throws? The media's not going to talk about that, or, the fanboys are not going to talk about that. That's my problem. It's just, he scored this amount of points. Or how about his terrible defense? And I remember quite a few possessions where Curry would drive off of a curl or he would just drive. James Harden would be standing right there and he had a chance to make a play, but just some little half-hearted swipe, and then Curry gets an easy cup to the basket. Same thing with Chris Paul. His defense wasn't good neither. But all we want to do is make excuses with the numbers they put up because they showed up and balled out. I'm talking about in the biggest of moments. And I've said this before, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Paul is known to have anxiety. Chris Paul is known to be passive, like in big games, like down the stretch. He was so worried about trying to play for the referees and the whistle, and he was doing it in Game 6 instead of just playing basketball. And then James Harden, I told you that he did a much better job not playing for the whistle after Game 1. He still did it sometimes, but not at the level he was doing it at Game 1, because Chris Paul and James Harden, because the referees missed calls that they were going to try to over-exaggerate to make sure that the refs were paying attention, and the refs swallowed their whistles. And I'm going to say it again. When they had to play basketball and the referees had to swallow their whistles, Chris Paul and James Harden were nullified. They were nullified. And they really couldn't do anything about it. That was the worst part. And all I keep hearing is the Rockets were robbed in game one. They would have had a chance to win the series. You still had games 2, 3, 4, which you won. You won games 3 and 4, right? Game 5, and then game 6. I love how they go back to game 1. See, these are it's reminded me so much of LeBron and what people kept saying about game 1. LeBron had 51-8-8, and the referees robbed the Cavaliers of the game. But it was a tight game. You had 5 minutes of overtime. You had game 2, game 3, and game 4. See, this is my thing. People continuously act like one game determined the entire series when you had other games to play. You still had an opportunity to win. The opportunities were there for the Rockets. They just did not take advantage of them. That's why I'm saying, like, stop with the excuses, man. It's like the Harden and Chris Paul excuses are reminding me so much of how many excuses people will give LeBron. It's ridiculous. Oh, and then Mike D'Antoni. Yeah, the face of the Pringles can, who just shaved his mustache so he wouldn't get tricked, so he wouldn't get labeled it from me. Because I would have kept calling him Mr. Pringles, man. And he still looks like the Pringles, man, regardless. Okay? The face of the Pringles can. Oh, let's iso ball, dribble, shoot threes. What happened? Oh, and Daryl Morey. Oops, we can't forget about him because he's so smart and knows all about analytics. And yet they got beat by a team that is still, I told you, team systems beat ISO systems, man. It's a given, ladies and gentlemen. It's a given. Unless the isolation team has things in their favor, they are not going to be a system team. When are people going to understand that? But they choose not to understand it. And that's why I'm getting sick and tired of these excuses how are you going to put it on James Harden when you got a coach who can't coach and all this kind of stuff? Well, let me tell you this question. How about the fact that James Harden is so limited offensively that he doesn't have any parts of his game but just relying on referees? So that's Mike D'Antoni's fault that James Harden relies on the whistle? Or is it because he's really not that skilled? Like, come on, guys. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, really. And that's why I said that I blame Mike D'Antoni, I blame Daryl Morey, I blame Chris Paul, and I blame James Harden. I blame that. Now I keep thinking to myself, this was one of the reasons to me probably why Trevor Ariza didn't want to come back and he chose to go to Phoenix Suns. It wasn't just that the Rockets couldn't afford him, but he saw what James Harden and Chris Paul were really like in terms of their play style. And that's what people need to just stop. James Harden is not a superstar. He's an all-star player at best. It's in the biggest of moments, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not talking about 35 points. I know James Harden had 35 points. This is what the fanboys and fangirls do for LeBron James. They go, oh, look at the stats, but never talk about the context of the game. What I saw that he wasn't doing. Okay, he gave you the numbers. Okay, he got them. But the thing was, how did he get his numbers? Same thing with James Harden. By that point, when they're like, oh, James Harden hit a 3. The game was pretty much over, ladies and gentlemen. The Warriors won by 5. And it's like, this is what's so deceiving about this Warrior-Houston series. Every single game, the final score was pretty close. But you wouldn't be able to tell that from how the game was played and how both teams dominated certain areas of the game. A lot of the points that ended up happening was because of fourth quarter and garbage time. It's a combination of both. That's what people just fail to understand. No one is disputing that James Harden had 35 points. Nobody's disputing that he averaged over 34 for the series. The bottom line is the fourth quarter. In Game 5, James Harden actually played well in the fourth quarter, and the Rockets' offense was actually pretty good. The only problem was James Harden, there were key moments where he wasn't aggressive, and the Warriors continued to be. We're not even going to talk about the fact that Chris Paul was 3 for 14 in Game 5. Through the first 5 games, Chris Paul played terrible. James Harden is going to get the brunt. He's going to get the blunt just because of his past history. And Chris Paul was going to go slip right under the radar. Nuh-uh, man. No. Chris Paul is petty. He's salty. He's jealous of Steph Curry. Both him and LeBron. And more so Chris Paul, because it's funny. They were two of his biggest supporters. And now they're salty and they're jealous of him all the time because of how successful Steph Curry's become. A legacy-defining game for Chris Paul, James Harden, and Steph Curry. More so for Harden and Paul. and Steph Curry is the one that ends your season, he outplayed the two of you in the biggest moments when he struggled in the first half. Now, if there's and funny, Klay Thompson carried the first half and Curry did the second half. It was kind of almost by design because remember, they're going to just focus on Curry. Remember what people were saying. The Rockets, it's going to be easier for them to defeat the Warriors because they could just double down on Curry. Did you forget their ball movement? I mean, the Warriors offense, they destroyed the Rockets defense with their ball movement. And the Rockets just, there were a lot of times where they failed to communicate. But at the same time, the Warriors really confused them on the offensive end with some of their set plays. It's what's made the Warriors great for the last 5 years. And that's what I'm trying to get at, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why I'm just really tired of all these narratives about how Chris Paul and, James Harden, like they balled out and then all this kind of stuff. That's what people feel. That's the first thing that people want to say. Yeah, they balled out, but I'm talking about your season on the line, elimination game. What are you going to do for me down the stretch? Are you going to pull this out, make the necessary plays, die for loose balls, play great defense? But what happened? They turned the ball over. They played horrible defense. They let Steph Curry go out for 33 second half points, them and the entire team. So the defense was just not great. And then you get your little chippy points in little garbage time when the Warriors were up, 8 points? But then people want to sit here and talk about, I'm sick and tired of people getting on, how are you going to get on James Harden when the Warriors are just that good? No, because you guys were going all crazy talking about how the Rockets got the Warriors number. Without Kevin Durant, they're going to smoke the Warriors. I don't see the Warriors winning. Watch, James Harden's going to ball out, and they don't have a shot. Now all of a sudden it's, but what do you expect James Harden to do? Because the Warriors are that good. They're just that amazing. They just ran into a better team. All of a sudden, now people can't keep that same energy now. It's unbelievable, man. Unbelievable the amount of excuses. Daryl Morey doesn't get a pass. To me, he's a moron. He played the analytics game and he guessed wrong. And it's like, you guys are just idiots. You need an actual system to beat the Golden State Warriors. You cannot play iso ball. You're playing right into their hands, man. That's a trump card you cannot play against them. Why do you think LeBron is not winning championships? It's not just the fact that Kevin Durant is there. Obviously, that's like the biggest reason. But think about it. A system beats a isolation player. When you're the only person that benefits in your system, it works when the cards are stacked in your favor. When they're not stacked in your favor, 9 times out of 10 you're losing, ladies and gentlemen. 9 times out of 10. I mean, what did Nick Wright and the idiotic media say in 2017 finals? That even with that even with those fall all-star Monstars roster, the Cavaliers were going to win in 5 games and LeBron was going to beat all 4 of them. How many excuses were made after they lost in a gentleman's sweep? But when Kyrie averaged 29.4 points, Kevin Love was non-existent, Iman Shumpert, Kyle Korver, Channing Frye, Richard Jefferson, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith. The blame was just going around. I get all that, but that's a product of the system too. And the defense was just horrible. LeBron was standing there a lot of the series. Some of the guys weren't defending. But you're gonna defend the back that LeBron averaged a triple-double. See, that's the first thing to do. What more do you want LeBron to do? He averaged a triple. That's a stupid casual answer. LeBron James thought his LeBron James system was gonna be able to defeat a team system because he's the best player on the floor in his mind, forgetting that Kevin Durant is on the other side and refused to defend Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant was the better player between the two of them. And then last year, in 2018, LeBron fanboys using the game 1 excuse of the 51-8-8, but failed to realize about the overtime. I talked about the J.R. Smith blunder. Everybody knows he screwed up, but at the same time, you still had overtime to play, and he showed poor leadership. And that's another thing with the Houston Rockets. They have poor leadership. Poor leadership. CP3 is supposed to be a floor general and a leader, and he displayed poor leadership. As a matter of fact, he was pathetic and he was petty and he was salty. Trying to do all this crap. And this is, once again, the president of the Players Union, ladies and gentlemen. President of the Players Union. Acting like a child. Well, guess what? You have the court all to yourself, so you can practice all summer until October. You don't get excuses. James Harden is not a superstar, ladies and gentlemen. I don't care if anybody gets mad about that. That's the truth. James Harden is not a superstar. For somebody to come up that short in the big moments once again, even with 35 points, even with the playoffs average, listen, if James Harden is there down the stretch and he pulls out the win, we could say, oh man, that's a huge game. And then he comes back in game 7 and it was there in the fourth quarter and delivers the team for victory, then I would not be questioning James Harden. I would say, yo, this guy, listen, man, when the moment is big, he rises to the occasion. He didn't do that, ladies and gentlemen. And I saw the game. Steph Curry went scoreless. And at the end of the game, he had more points than CP3. And he was 2 points away from having the same amount as James Harden. Let that marinate. Let that sink in. But anywho, ladies and gentlemen, man, this is your boy Lewis with another one as always. Let me know what you guys think in the comments of people giving Harden and Paul too many passes. You know, these fanboys out here. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, man. As always, bless up. One love. Peace. Thanks for watching. And I'll be back with another video with today's Western Conference Finals Game 1. And I will give my previews on it. So, all right. Take care.